So this is what I always call, what can we do in the classroom for out of the classroom? I don't want you to answer this question yet, but by the end of this session, you'll be thinking about this. When were you last in control of your own learning? Don't need to answer yet, but that's the theme of today. How much control do our students have over their own learning? How much control do you have over your own teaching? And how much control do you have over your own learning? It's a very, very interesting question, and you'll start to see why. This session is quite academic, so you might want to have a pen and paper, but I'll send you everything after. It's quite deeply academic, but it also shows, it gives you a really good understanding of, I think, what we're not doing right in our classrooms, what we can do better, and the theories behind letting our students learn on their own. So let me just tell you a story. When I first started teaching, and I've told this on a few of my webinars, this is a group of my students from 10, 12, 14 years ago. They're all older teenagers, and I used to teach them once a week, and I thought I was an awesome teacher. But oh, Nadine, you're back. Good to see you. I used to think I was a great teacher, and I would teach these guys, and at the end of every week, I would come back, and they would come back to class, and they'd basically forgotten everything that I wanted to teach them. And I used this story when I talked about flipped classrooms. What I realized was the reason that they're not remembering what I had taught them is because I had given them no skills of what to do outside the classroom. I assumed that all the learning was happening in the classroom and that was good enough. Soon I started to realize quite early on was learning happens outside the classroom, and in the classroom we can use it for doing, more focused accuracy activities, more collaboration, more dialogues, etc. But really, if they're not learning outside the classroom, then we're not going to have the best time in the classroom. And so what I started to work out was that I needed to develop their learning skills to do more outside the classroom. And what we know is that our students, one of the premises for what I'm talking about today is that our students are already very autonomous. So we'll get to a definition of autonomy soon, but our students already want to learn on their own. If you give students a big pile of Lego, they will start to do things on their own. If you give them paper and pen, they will do all these things on their own. But we need to integrate that into our classrooms to make sure that they get the most out of our classrooms, especially young kids. I think that you'll find that the old adults are not very autonomous. Adults need to be told what to do, because the older you get, the less of that freedom you have in thinking I can make a mistake, etc. So this is just a picture I always put up to think about what can we do in the classroom for outside the classroom. So there's going to be 4 things we're going to do. We're going to define this topic, and it's quite academic, but I think it'll be valuable. We're going to look at choice and what you can do with the simple thing of just adding more choice to your classrooms. A few little cool ideas I have for you. We're going to talk about meta language. What is meta language? Don't have to answer now. And a little bit on how tech can help with learner autonomy. So what is learner autonomy? Is anyone brave enough to type in a short definition? It's a hard one. What is learner autonomy? Yes, Valeria. Valeria Hyslop Tai. What a great name. Where's my friend Daniel Baker today? He's not talking. He usually talks. Oh, Christina, thank you. Looking forward to seeing some definitions. Ah, wow. Hey, who was that wrote that? That's awesome. I don't think you need to come to this session. When learners can control and practically decide for themselves how the learning unfolds. What a great definition. I love that you put the word control in there. Yeah, the ability learning by your own. Yeah, that's another great definition, Christina. Awesome. So a definition for today, but of course this is on learner autonomy, so I'm not going to just tell you the definition, right? So first thing I want you to do is I'm going to give you a definition, but I want you to type 3 words you might see. What do you think will be in the definition? 3 words. Just any 3 words you think you might see in the definition. Go for it. Everyone's typing fast. Just 3 words you might see. No worries, Daniel. I know you're a good guy. But just miss your awesome interactions. Okay, let's think of 3 words. Yeah, learning. I think there might be the word learning in there. Ooh, initiative. That's a good word. Any other words, guys? Whoa! Valeria. Engagement, control, proactiveness. 3 of my favorite teaching words. Okay, guys, so let's find out what we're going to see. What we're doing here with putting the 3 words in, it's just a little prediction activity, right? I'm just letting you predict what you might see. Now, of course, one of the first skills in learner autonomy is learning how to predict. So you can do the same thing with your students, right? If they're about to read a book, let me think, oh yeah, I love this book. This is my favorite book to read to kids, The Gruffalo. If I just say to them, what do you think might happen? What animals will you see? What will he say? What will the Gruffalo say? What will the mouse say? All of these things are just prediction, right? And prediction is giving power to your students. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. It doesn't matter what they say. It's getting them to think, and that's the first step to learner autonomy. So let's have a look. So I asked you for 3 words. We have words like control, reflection, action, learning. Okay, let's have a look. Here are 2 definitions. Here are 2 definitions. Have a quick minute to read, 30 seconds. And tell me, did any of the words you said? Yes, we have learning, right? That was one of the words someone said. We have control, right? Yeah, we have the word learning again. What else do we have? Okay. So here are 2 definitions. Autonomy is a situation in which the learner is totally responsible for all decisions concerned with his or her learning and the implementation of those decisions. And definition number 2, autonomy is the ability to take control of one's own learning. Now have a think. Let's just type now. Do you like definition 1 or definition 2? Just 1 or 2? 1 or 2? Which definition do you like? Oh, we got Lee, Joyce as well now. Ah, okay, Valeria, nice. You like 2? Anyone else wanna try? Definition 1 or 2? Okay, Kim. I wonder if everyone will just copy Valeria. Okay. So guys, yeah, I like that word. It's a great word, right? So what I was doing here by just letting you choose the definition, and it's a great one you can do even with young learners. Just put 2 definitions up. It even could just be, you know, an apple. It's a red fruit. Or it might be, do they want to choose it's a red fruit or it's a yummy food? It doesn't matter, right? The point is, by giving 2 definitions, I'm now giving you choice. Choice is one of the most important things for learner autonomy. Having the chance to look for yourself and make your own decision. So I've given you control over the learning. Let's have a look at which one I prefer. I personally prefer, sorry guys, I personally prefer, I want to put a shape over the top of this one. I'm going to choose a rectangle. That didn't work. A shape. Why isn't that working? I personally prefer definition number 2. The reason I prefer number 2 is because it's letting them take control of their learning, but it doesn't mean, as it says here, it doesn't mean that the teacher, oh, how do I get rid of that? Dun, 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 dun. Oh yeah, clear all. Yes. Sorry, guys. It doesn't mean that the teacher, in the first definition, it implies that the teacher wouldn't be helping. There's no reason why a teacher can't help with learner autonomy. Because you want the teacher to take some responsibility. You want the teacher to make some decisions. And also, many students just prefer to have a teacher. And that means that they are taking control. If they say, I want a teacher, they're giving them control. So I like definition number 2. It's the ability to take control of one's own learning. But let's look deeper. So, guys, what I'm going to show you is, this is a very famous model of how do you take control of learning. And this is put forward by a very really cool guy named Phil Benson, based at Hong Kong University. And he's kind of like the leading expert in the world on learner autonomy in the classroom. And I've used this many, many times. So what he talks about is he puts control here at the center. I'm just going to get a pen. He puts control here. And he thinks about what can students take control of in the classroom and what can teachers take control of. Do you want to just start to have a little think about that? What can a student take control of? Do you want to type something? For example, they can take control of where they sit. Sometimes they can, maybe in a language school, maybe not in a government school in China. They're not allowed to take control of where they sit. But what can they take control of? Valeria, I'm a big fan now. I'm going to contact you because you're so interactive. And Christina and Kim. Let's have a quick think about what can students take control of. Oh, lots of typing going on. Interesting. Whoa, their attitude to learning, awesome. The level of engagement, yeah, the attitude is an interesting one. We'll come to that because sometimes maybe they're really motivated, but the classroom environment doesn't allow them to. The level of engagement, yeah. But what if you have a teacher that just never lets you answer a question? So maybe you want to participate, but the teacher is not one of those teachers that lets you participate, like me, who's letting you participate now. And yeah, sharing their opinions and stuff, that's great. Daniel, it's worth waiting for Daniel. He always says something smart. The pressure is on now, Daniel. But yeah, Valeria, really cool points. Okay, Kitty, you okay? I've got a cat here. I hope. Okay, go for it, Daniel. Guys, I'm just going to have to open a door very quickly. Sorry. Keep going. Whoa. Thank you for your patience. Daniel's still typing, so I'm going to move on while you guys are typing. So I'm going to show you 3 things that, oh, there, let's have a look. They can control they can control the partner they want to work with. In some classes, sometimes, you know, teachers, we want to put them together, as well as a warm-up activity they can do in class. Great. They can take turns and get to pick the activity. Awesome. Yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about today. Yeah, and their level of attitude as well, and the engagement with the teacher. So let's have a look. We're going to get quite deep into it now. So what Phil Benson says is that there are 3 things that we can control in the classroom, or three things that control learning, I should say. It's not necessarily what we can control, but let's have a look. So the three things are learning behavior, right? So that's kind of like, we'll have a look, but that's like things like, what skills do you have for learning? How do you approach learning? Do you take notes, etc.? Learning situation, that's where you learn. Is it in a classroom? Is it out and about on the streets? Is it with an app? How is the classroom set up? Is it a textbook? Is it a curriculum? And then the last one is the psychology of learning, which is your motivation to want to learn. Let's have a look a bit deeper. So for the learning situation, it's things like the study environment, right? Now, most students cannot control the study environment, right? They go to a school and they are told basically this is how, oh, cool, no worries, Nadine. I think you just need to find where the chat is, but it's cool. So guys, let's have a look. The learning situation is, a lot of the time, there is nothing the student can do about that. They have a curriculum put forward by the school. They have the desks and the tables, how the teacher has set them up. The resources are like that. The assessments are all are done for them. So that's a hard one for students to control, but you can see that how you might be able to give them some support with that. Number two, the psychology of learning. This is the motivation, the beliefs and preferences, the cultural background, and crash and, again, effective filter. How am I going into that class? Can I control my own feelings? Now, adults can, because they're much more aware of themselves. The thing with students is, right, that with younger students, of course, it's about what you can do as a teacher to support their motivation, to let their beliefs come out, to be aware that, especially if you're teaching multilingual classrooms, that different cultures have different ways. Now, we know in China, for example, you know, 给面子 or 丢脸, like you have the losing face thing. You know, students don't want to be the first to put up their hand. So that means the teacher should be doing things to control that. But guys, I think that most teachers are really good at motivating kids, right? And most teachers are good at trying to set up a positive learning environment. So the one we're going to look at today is learning behavior. Now, learning behavior is things like thinking skills. It's how, like, what learning strategies, we'll go deeper into this. Communication skills, self-assessment, communication skills. Now, you might think these are things that only teenagers and adults can do, but we're going to see how kids can do this as well, and how you as a teacher can help them do that. So I just want to focus on two. I mean, this whole thing is huge, right? And we could get deeper and deeper into all of them. And we often do work on a lot of these things, especially how to motivate kids, how to have fun and all that. But today, what my main focus is going to be thinking skills and learning strategies. I think if you can just help your kids thinking skills and give them some strategies for learning, the impact that you'll have on their learner autonomy is really big. It's kind of like the 80-20 rule, right? Just these two things will impact all of their learning. It will also make you start to think about, what am I controlling as a teacher? You start to realize as a teacher, you don't have as much control as you think. You can't control the curriculum. You can't control when you teach. You can't control the place you teach. You can't control how many students you have. You can't control which students you have, and sometimes you might want to. You can't control who your DOS is or your boss is. You can't control the company you work for, right? So there's a lot of things you can't control as a teacher. So I did some research on this when I was working at Macmillan Education with teachers all over Asia, and it was fascinating research. I started to ask about, I'll show you the research, but I wanted to look at thinking skills. Now, thinking skills are things like prediction, which we just did before. Do you have the ability to predict? Because if your teacher is always giving you the answer and never letting you predict, how do you develop the skill of prediction? Creativity is a thinking skill, critical thinking, evaluating, comparing two things. Thinking skills might be as simple as just saying to a student, can you please compare this cup and this glass? You right? One is bigger, one is smaller. That's a thinking skill. It's getting you to see that two different things are different. That's part of critical thinking, right? And then the other one I want to talk about is learner strategies. Learner strategies are processes and actions that are consciously deployed by learners, language learners, to help them learn or use a language. That sounds difficult, but really, learner strategies are just things like this. Note-taking, right? I mean, you can get 5-year-olds to do pictures. If you just get them to draw a picture of the words that they learnt today, that's a form of learner strategy because it gives them power to take it home, right? Collaborating, learning to ask other people, working individually. Can you do it? I have a 5-year-old daughter. She cannot work individually, and I've got to teach her how to be calm and do it. Repeating. Prediction is also a learning strategy. Mind maps. You know, you get kids to draw mind maps. That's another learning strategy. Recording on your phone, using highlighters, doing practice texts, doodling, like I said. And my favorite one of all, my favorite learning strategy is this one, procrastinating. I'm a huge procrastinator, but I need to procrastinate to get things done. For example, I finished the slides for this presentation last night and early this morning because then I had the pressure. But that's a learning strategy for me. So I'm gonna ask you some more questions soon. So this was the research I did on thinking skills and learning strategies. I asked 3 questions. Is this concept clear to you? Do you think it's important to develop it? And do you have opportunities to develop this in your school? So it's really simple. Do you understand the theory, the concept? Is it important? And are you able to do it? Let's look at the results. So this was for learning strategies. So I said to the teachers, the question was, I feel I have the opportunity to develop learning strategies in my class. I feel I have the opportunity to develop learning strategies in my class. And it was a little bit sad, right? Because we have here 18% of people said, oh, sorry, the other way around. We had all these people said, I don't think I do. And some people thought they agree a little bit. And some people said that they really can develop learning strategies. But when you look at that compared to this one, I feel I have the opportunity, oh no, guys, I put the same graph in twice. Sorry, I'm really sorry, guys. I feel so embarrassed by this. Really, basically what I want to show you is that everybody wants to develop learning strategies, but if you see this one, they don't feel they have the opportunity to develop learning strategies. Oh, how embarrassing. I'll have to fix that before I send it out to you. So, how embarrassing. I put the wrong topic in. What I'm trying to show you was that teachers want to develop learning strategies, but they don't feel as much that they have the opportunity to. And that was all over Asia. Okay, let's play another game very quickly. I know this one is definitely in there. On a scale of 10 being extremely and 1 being not at all, how autonomous are your learners? How autonomous are they? Are they very autonomous, or no, they always need help and support? On a scale of 1 to 10. Oh, great. That's awesome, Valerie. Yeah. Oh, I'm surprised. This is quite high. Higher than I've had before. And we'll just look at Christina's one. This is what this is from the 180 teachers around Asia that I researched for this. They said 4.5. It was quite low for them. Now, admittedly, a lot of this was in Japan, and in Japan, you know, they have a lot less autonomy than in China, for example. I think that if you have a lot of students that grandparents, you know, want to do everything for them, I notice a lot of teachers, a lot of parents will always try to answer questions for their students. But yeah, so what was sad for me was that teachers didn't think their kids were autonomous. Okay, so that's a lot of background. The basic definition I just gave you is the idea that autonomy is about control, and it's about we're going to look at thinking strategies, thinking skills, and learning strategies as we move forward. The next thing I want to look at is choice. And this is a huge one to develop learner autonomy and those two points we just made. So how can we add choice to the classroom? I just want to show you, this is a really nice textbook. Now, I don't even work for this company, but I just really like this textbook. It's quite cool because what it's allowing kids to do is choose a hobby. It might be a bit hard to see, but it's just a very simple one where they have to use language to do a project. But what it allows them to do is choose the hobby they want to present, describe the hobby, right, and come up with a presentation. Now, it allows for some choice, but what a teacher could do to add more choice to a simple activity like this is say to them, okay, you can either present it, or you could do a video, or you can do a speech, or you can do a poster. You can also choose your group size. And it's just like Daniel said before, allowing them to choose what they're going to do. So this is just a simple, typical activity you see in a book. I like this one, but what could you do to add more choice to it? Here's another one. These are just simple choice questions, guys. When you're asking your students in class, you want them to go and write down, say, 5 sentences, or you want them to come up with a dialogue with 2 sentences or 4 sentences. A simple thing to do is just say, how many sentences do you want in the dialogue? How many interactions? Or keep it simple, right? How many sentences? What you will find is students almost always push themselves to I+1, you know, the input +1. Higher level students might choose 5 sentences. Lower level students might choose 2 sentences. But that means you're giving them control. And then if they do 2, you say, well done. Next time, do you want to try and do 3? But by giving them the choice. And here's the main point, is it allows for differentiation, right? It allows for different mixed ability classes. You don't want to tell all your students to do the same amount, because you always have one girl that's much, sorry to be sexist, but one girl that is better, usually, always in my classes, it's a little girl who's better than most of the other kids. So she might want to do 8 sentences, but maybe another kid only wants to do 4. And as Daniel said, choose who you want to work with. Now, I know we like to group people up. I know that it's sometimes bad to group kids with kids that they're not well behaved with. But you can always say to them, look, I don't want you to work with Jason, but I want you to choose between Mary and Lisa. Every time you give them a choice, you're giving them power. And you're giving them control. Not power, sorry. You're giving them control, but you are empowering them to take control. When you're doing reading, of course, I've got a whole bunch of books here behind me, but instead of saying you must read this book, why not let them choose which book they want to read? Choose blue if it's harder, choose red if it's easier. There's so much chance for giving them choice, right? And the last one is, where do you want to sit? Now, you know, obviously we don't want them always sitting with kids that they're not well behaved with, but just by giving them the choice, it just empowers them to say, I have chosen to sit here. This is another awesome one that I love. We make a big poster on the wall, and it's called a choice menu. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And what you do is at the end of the class, you say, okay, this is all the language we've done today. These are the structures, right? Now, you can either draw it, or you can act it out, or you can say it, or you can do a test if you want. You can work alone, work in a whole class, film it, write it, or make your own choice. Now, this is good if you're in a kindergarten where you have daily choice. If you have a local teacher, or you are a local teacher, just explain this in Chinese, what it is. And then each day you cross one off. You say, okay, last lesson we drew it. The kids always want to choose draw because it's the easiest one, right? And then you say, okay, now we've done the test. Okay, now we've done say it. Now let's do work alone. And by the end of the week or the end of the month, you've crossed them all off and the kids have chosen which ones they want to do, right? It's a really nice one. You could have it in the back of their workbook, or you have it up on the board and make it as a whole class choice. I really like this one, and it works really, really well. It's called a choice menu. So the other big one is just to sum up, it's make your students aware that they made the choice. And this is where we lead on to meta language. The idea of just saying, good job, you chose. Good job, you chose this one. Good job, you sat next to that person. Just giving them the positive reinforcement. The same way you would say, good job, you said the sentence correctly. Giving them some positive reinforcement about what choices they're making in the classroom. So that's all about choice. There's a lot to get through here, guys. This is a really big one. This is called meta language. What is meta language? What is meta language? And I have used some meta language today. What is meta language? Can anyone try and hazard a guess? Valeria? Daniel? Christina? Oh, no one wants to type? You want to look it up? Go on Bing, go on Baidu. Yeah, meta language is meta language. It is one word. I just couldn't fit it on the slide. Oh, Joyce. I'm excited. I haven't seen Joyce yet. Ooh, it's not any language. Yeah, it's okay if you don't know. It's fine. It's good if you don't know. I love the point where you realize you don't know something and you're about to learn something because, ooh, to discuss, nice. Describe is a kind of meta language, yeah. And how to analyze another language, yeah. So basically in language learning, meta language is the language around learning, right? Typing yeah, that's okay, Kathy. So guys, when we talk about grammar, we know what meta language is, right? If you say, I went to the shop yesterday. I went to the shop yesterday. What is the grammar structure? I went to the shop yesterday. What is the grammar? Yeah, past tense, Kathy. Good. Daniel, great. So past tense is just meta language. It's just a fancy way of saying, I went to the shop yesterday. It's the past tense. You're giving them some meta language. But I'm not a fan of grammatical meta language. I'm a fan of learning meta language. Let's have a look. Sorry, let's have a look. Click. So meta language is this idea of how do you raise awareness of the learning. So if you don't have the words to talk about learning, it might be hard for you to understand your learning. If you don't have the words to talk about it, you probably don't understand it. This is why we have to talk about the idea of integrating more Chinese into our classrooms in China, or more L1, you know, more of the native language. So you want to raise awareness of the learning by talking about learning. The best way to become aware of your own learning is to have the language to talk about it. For those who've read George Orwell or 1984, it's kind of similar to that. You can't talk about a topic you have no language to use, right? So we want to empower students to be able to talk about it. So I'm going to go quite high level and we'll come down to young learners, okay? So here is another textbook. This is from, actually, it's a textbook from Macmillan Publishing where I used to work. But the point of this one is, in here they have to look at the activity and do some critical thinking. So what learning strategies will the student have to go through to do this? I'm going to explain. So let's have a look. If a student does this activity, they have to read, right? They've got to compare, and they've got to answer these questions. So what you could have done before you did the activity, for example, is you probably would have done some prediction. And then you tell the students, just like I did at the beginning of this webinar, good job, you predicted what might be here. So predicted is a meta language. Predicted is the language of learning. But you need to tell your students that they're predicting. So they know that predicting is a good thing to do. Good job, you compared 2 paragraphs. So instead of just saying, now go compare 2 paragraphs, good job, what's the language? We want to tell them that you compared, because comparing is a really positive thing to do. You made a mind map. That's a learning strategy, right? We just talked about before. If they work in pairs, you can just say very quickly, good job, guys, you collaborated with your friends, right? And then they start to hear this language. They start to notice, collaborating, prediction, comparing. These are all good words for learning. These are words that are going to help me learn more. What about young learners? I can't imagine. Oh, I know. Do you know what I told you guys? This is my most passionate subject. So if you've seen my webinars before, they're not as passionate as this. I think this is the key to language learning. So what about young learners, right? What language can we use to raise awareness with young learners? Let's have a look. So say you want to give feedback to your students. You want to give feedback, right? And we always want to do it. Now, there's one way we can do it. We can just say, good job, or great work, or high five. But it doesn't tell you anything. It tells you, I'm happy that you did something, but what did I do? Why are you giving me a high five? Why are you giving me the thumbs up? Let's have a look. Whoa. Now, if you have a very high-level student, this is a little idea I came up with, that if you have a high-level student and you want to give them feedback on an activity, if they're very high level, you can say to them, great critical thinking. That's great for university students, but maybe not very good for young learners, right? So then you might come down and just say, good job, you compared 2 things. And then you can just come all the way down and say, good job, they're not the same, right? So if you're telling them, let's look at the difference, let's look at an apple and an orange, and they say, the apple is red, the orange is orange. And you can say, good, you compared. Or good, they're not the same. You see how you're starting to integrate language that is about learning? And they don't have to understand everything. Now, if you're Chinese, it's awesome. You can say, you know, 非常好. I can't say it. 他们都不一样. You know, you can say, like, you could say it in Chinese, right? It's a nice way to get them to see that they've noticed something is different. If you're setting up activities, let's have a look. So if you're in a really high level class, you might say, okay, high class, let's critically analyze the possibilities, right? Critically analyze the possibilities. But if you're a little bit lower, you might say, let's make a prediction. And a little bit lower, you might just say, make a guess, have a guess. Like I said, let's guess what happens. Let's guess. And teachers, you should model what you want to guess. Model the behavior for them, just like you model any language. So when I'm doing the Gruffalo, I say, what will we see? And I'll say, I think I'll see an elephant. And the kids will say, no, I think I'll see a monkey climbing a tree. But the point is that I'm making a guess of what I'll see. And then they all try and they say silly things. But the point is that they're speaking and that they're predicting. And as I told you from the beginning, prediction is one of the keys to learner autonomy. And you might just say, guess. You know, you might cover up, have the classic boxes covering what's in there, or the flashcard. Now, Rob, you know, you can say, guess. And then at the end, you can say, good job, you guessed. I just want to make one more point about this, guys. The point of prediction and guessing is that when we're out in the real world, if we don't know how to say something, we will just make a guess. So in China, for example, we might know how to say, 我要一碗面, right? I can order my noodles, but I'm not quite sure what the chicken noodles are called. So you could just make a guess, right? You will say, 要鸡面, or if I want something, you know, you might just point and guess. That's the point. Naturally, we always take risks and guess what something might be. So here's another one. What's the easiest way to say you collaborated effectively? What's the easiest? I want you guys to try and guess. What's the easiest way to say you collaborated effectively? What's a really simple way to say it? Yeah, Daniel Baker, the man from wherever he's from. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, Lee, this is awesome. And you see, by just commenting to the students, you worked well together. Or, you know, good teamwork. Yeah. You and your friend did well. My favorite one is always to say, good job, you helped Lisa, or Mary helped John. And sometimes I say it in front of the whole class, right? Mary and John helped each other. Or if they're really low level, like 4 and 5 and quite beginner, just say, yeah, that's great, guys. But what you're doing is you're rewarding that they helped each other. And that's how language learning happens, right? Whenever you're out with a friend, and if you can't speak Chinese, guys, and you're in China, you're always going to ask a friend, right? That's how it happens. Yeah, here's a high five, right? So, Kathy, you make a good point. You high five them, but why? And I think kids go home thinking, great, I got a lot of high fives, but how did that help me learning? I don't think, yeah, so just think about that. Always add some reason for the motivation, right? For the positive feedback. And you can talk to parents about it as well, right? This is definitely something you can say to parents. What I like to do is I have up on my walls, I have all these words up: collaborated, helped, predict, and I keep coming back to them. And we call them non-verbal cues, NVCs. And you can point at them. You say, good job, Lisa, you collaborated today. Or good job. And another great one to do is when you do I like to do a lineup when they leave the classroom, and we call it a ticket out the door. They've got to say something they did in class today. Yeah, exactly, Kathy. So if you say to them, and what you'll find is after a few months, the kids start knowing. They say, today I helped my friend, and you say, good job, you can go home. It's not just about the language of the class, it's also all this other language about yourself, right? So you can, you know, sometimes you ask them to say, I helped my friend, or I guessed the answer, or I chose where I wanted to sit. It's a really nice way to leave the classroom. We're on the home stretch. Just a few things about using tech. I'm not going to get heavy into it because most of my webinars are based around using ed tech. But, you know, it's just this idea, guys, that your young learners are more digitally literate than you are. That's the reality. Every one of your students was, well, not everyone, but 80% of your students were born after a smartphone was invented. They don't have a concept that you can't interact with technology to learn. It's just part of their life. Now, you need to, so that means that there is all this autonomous learning happening already on digital technology, especially on apps, etc. So I always say this: never be afraid. Yeah, exactly, Kathy. Of course, right? Because, and the same with my daughter. She'll be like, Daddy, go here, and they can do all this stuff. So when people are afraid of tech in the classroom or tech at home and apps and software, they're just limiting their students' and children's chance to learn. The idea is to have the right amount of screen time, right? What technology do you use to learn? What's the #1 thing you use to learn, or look things up, or find things? Type it in. The #1 thing you use to learn. Oh, Daniel, I thought you were going to type something else. I bet. Okay, let me ask you a question, guys. When you're out and about with friends and you don't know the answer to something, do you go to a PC? Where do you really look something up? You Google it wherever you are? Yeah, but where? Do you do it on a PC or do you do it somewhere else? What's the technology you use? Yeah, of course. 99% of the time you ask, you know, you're in a bar somewhere, or maybe not in a bar, you're in a restaurant with your friends, and they say, what about this? And you say, I'll look it up, I'll Google it. I'll Wikipedia it, I'll look it up, I'll Baidu it, I'll Siri it, I'll look it up, right? And every time we want to learn something now, we jump to our phones. Yet, what do we see in classrooms? All over China, all over Asia, is big signs, especially in adult schools. No phones, no phones, no phones. I think it's the number, it's a travesty. If your students are using phones in your classrooms, it's probably because your class isn't interesting enough, right? But why wouldn't you integrate the phone into the classroom? Hey guys, and I'm not saying with 7-year-olds, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying with teenagers especially, they want to be on their phone. So hey, look up the answer to this, look at the dictionary for this, find a picture of this. Empower them to use their phones for learning and not just playing the Jewel game or whatever that they do on there, right? Yeah, Alexa, I'm afraid of Alexa. Recognition refers to our ability to recognize an event or piece of information as, oh, great. I don't know if that came in from later. Yes. So guys, when you think about it, oh, sorry, I went too far. Technology is simply the tools we use. So if your students are using technology out of the classroom that they feel comfortable with, I almost guarantee that they'll be more comfortable learning on that technology as well. So what can we do with our phones in the classroom for out of the classroom? Guys, I'm not going to get into this one. I have a whole webinar on flipped classroom and what we can do with phone technology, and you can look it up. It's up on our website, and I think some of you came along to that. But just some really cool stuff you could be doing right now. This is one I do with Wechat. Now, I know that there are some regulations about not using Wechat in the classroom, and I'm not saying you should. Yeah, flipped classroom is the gold, Kathy. But you can use Wechat with parent groups. Now, at my daughter's kindergarten, she goes to a local kindergarten in China. Yeah, they just have like a group and they ask questions and the kids can answer some things in the group. In my classes, I do the same thing. I'm going to show you one example. So you can definitely have class groups. You can send out pre-tasks, right? So if you have Wechat, why not send out what you're going to do in the class before? Why not send out a video of what's going to happen? Why should the kid have to wait until they get to the classroom to find out what they're going to learn? And in a flipped classroom model, my favorite model, and I believe that really the future of teaching, I mean, really, I don't see how it's not the only way to move forward, especially for government schools. I have a cool webinar on it, so check it out on the website. But here's just a really simple example I did with an adult class. I don't want to show you the children's class I do because it's a little bit, they haven't signed waivers to let me show you, but this is in an adult class. So I just sent out, hi class, for Monday, please think about the most extreme weather you have experienced. One other student says, what is extreme weather? Now, I had two choices. I could have just answered, extreme weather is blah, 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 right? But what happened was a whole bunch of students started to answer. So what I said was, can anybody help Lisa? Now you see that one sentence alone, who can help? You can do it in all your young learner classrooms. Every time a student asks a question, it's an opportunity for learning to happen. Rather than you just answering the question, you can say, who can help? Then you're empowering all your students to help each other and do the learning. And then you can see here, like hurricanes, a tornado. What about a tsunami? I was in Japan. There you go. Oh yeah, that was bad. And you see what happened here is this is learner autonomy. This is them taking control of their own learning. Extensive reading is another thing you can do for learner autonomy. I have another webinar next week on extensive reading, especially with young learner readers, and what you can do to encourage extensive reading. But I mean, just this alone, you can now go back and you think you're on your phones all day, so why not go back and have a look and think about how you can integrate more daily reading into the class. There's lots and lots of apps you can do for language learning. We know that already. I usually base all my sessions around an app that I developed, but I won't show you today. Wow, that was a lot of stuff. So let's have a quick review, and I'm going to make one final point before we go. These are the 4 things I think that these are the 4 things we talked about today. We had a definition of learner autonomy, which is about control. We looked at the idea of encouraging choice in your classroom. Choice is the beginning of learner autonomy. We looked at how meta-language can help them think about what they're doing. So just saying things like, good job, you helped your friend. Good job, you made a guess. Good job, you tried and you made a mistake, but you got better. And the last one was we talked about tech. But I want to make a point before we go, a final thought, and this is a really big one in China especially. I want to think about who is the best, which teachers are going to be best at doing this. Now, I think all teachers are, right? But have a look at this. Now, here we have a foreign teacher, and here we have a local teacher. Now, this is just if you're in China, but imagine even if you're in Russia, if you're a Russian teacher. Now, this teacher speaks Chinese, and this teacher doesn't speak Chinese. Both of them are excellent teachers, right? But yeah, what can the local teacher do so much better than a foreign teacher is that they can use the language of the student. They can integrate Chinese and talk about learning. So what I like to do is, if you're a local teacher or you're a foreign teacher who speaks great Chinese, try to get into the classroom and talk about learning with your kids at the end of the class. Just use like 1 minute and you can say, okay, kids, today we did some great activities. I saw you learning on your own. You did some great pair work. And you start to talk about it in Chinese first, so the concept starts to develop. Then you start integrating in the English. Now, you can do it in English alone. It will still work. But if you're a local teacher and you're watching this right now, you have so much benefit that a foreign teacher who can't speak the local language, and this is where you can really start to use it. And I highly, highly recommend you integrate Chinese into your classroom to do this. If your school says, do not, sorry, I know I push this point a lot, but if your school says you can't use Chinese in the classroom, tell them to email me and we can have a nice discussion. Kathy, were you going to say something? You mentioned... Yeah, exactly. So just to summarize, guys, integrate the what and how of learning. Control. Why is all of this important? It's important because giving control is motivating to the student. Kids love being in control of their own learning, right? They want to try. Let me try. Let me try. I want to do it. No, 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 no. Yeah, exactly, Lee. I love it, Lee. And also, Lee, another one is like letting them, if they talk in Chinese, you can say to them, hey, kids, when would you use this language? Would you use this language out in a park? Would you use it outside? Or they can come up with 3 things they're going to tell their mother when they leave about the class in Chinese. So you're letting them talk about the class and giving them more control. So just a quick one, guys. Being in control is motivating, right? It makes you feel like you're empowered, and that's a great thing. And it's a great skill for future learning. Because remember, we're not teaching our kids to keep coming back to class. We're teaching them to get out of class, right? If they have to keep coming back, we're probably not doing the best job. So just to have guys, what I want you to do is, if you have time, check out Studycat.com. We're really working hard to develop our website further. We are an app company, by the way. I work for an app company who makes language learning programs for kids. But what we're really about, and I say this in every webinar, is building up a community of teachers who can get better understanding of language learning and teaching. We're going to start integrating some research in here, some open research. So you'll see a new tab soon coming up here called research. We're going to make it open access research, right? So you guys can have access to any research we do, and that's what we want to do. We want to make sure people have open access. There's lots of learning resources on here. There are 300 worksheets for your kids. All you have to do is sign up to the Studycat Club. You don't have to pay a cent. We don't take money from you. I mean, we do make money from our apps, but we don't take money from the teachers for this. Lots of learning resources you can check out. We have lots of blogs, you know, lots of cool little articles to share with other teachers. I suggest sharing them on Wechat, share them to other people, how to encourage good English pronunciation, things about songs and stuff, about how to learn to read, some more high-end stuff as well. And lucky last, webinars. All of my webinars are up here. We'll have more guests on there. I'd love to talk to any of you guys that were, you know, if you're interested in putting an article up or you're interested in getting involved in doing a webinar. Also later next year, really putting on a beat, we're looking at putting on a conference as well. So there's so much here for you guys. Studycat.com, check it out. I will send this out again, as I always do. And the next one is in 2 weeks. It's on reading. It's going to be pretty cool. It won't just be the usual old, you know, basic reading skills. It's going to be a kind of all-encompassing one on reading. And that's all. 11 o'clock. Have a great day. Happy Teachers Day. Peace from Shanghai. I'm in a good mood because it's Teachers Day. Yeah, I really enjoy you guys. It's really good to see you interactive. The numbers are a bit small, but I haven't been marketing very wide. Once we get the format right, we'll start marketing a lot more and get more people in here. But I think it's nice to be interactive with a small group to start off with. These should be uploaded. The video for this should be uploaded soon. And feel free to, if you need this for training materials for your teachers, if you're a trainer as well, please feel free to email me and get the PPT versions. Peace. Have a great day, guys. Oh, any questions? Sorry, I should be polite. I always forget to wait for questions. I actually have construction upstairs, so they're going to start exactly at 11. Oh, my email address, I'm going to email you after this. It's the email. Okay, I'll just put it here. Jake at Studycatcom. Harkness. I don't know what Harkness is. Ooh, I need to look this up. What's the Harkness discussion? I'm going to look it up now while you're doing it. Oh, geez, I feel like I should. How did I never come across this in all the time I've been? Yeah, Valeria, I think email me. I'd love to get in contact actually because you're so yeah, cool. I'm gonna check this out. I'm really interested in this. Yeah, guys, that's the other thing too. We want to have an open area on our website where people can be sharing all these things. I have a few Wechat groups where I share a lot. But yeah, the idea of getting all these into a more, because I know what it's like. Teaching can be quite lonely, right? Like you're in your staff room and maybe you're reading a lot of stuff, but it feels like a little world and you're not, you know, seeing what's coming up from all these other places. Yeah, nice one, Lee. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm definitely going to have a look. So, and Valeria, I'm going to have to read about the Harkness discussion now. I mean, I thought I knew everything. No, I'm joking. Yeah, nice one. This is really cool. I'm surprised I've never come across this before. I love coming across new things, Valeria. That's really awesome. Yeah, just try it. Okay, thanks, Lee. I'm going to check this out. Guys, I'll email you out this, and honestly, if you do email me, I will answer you. Daniel Baker can contest. When you email me, I will reply within 24, 36 hours. And yeah. All right, guys. I got to go. I have another meeting, and they're about to start upstairs. But peace. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Happy Teachers Day.